I was a naval telegrapher in the naval bombardment unit. I did my training. I was a naval telegraphist in the naval bombardment unit. I did my training up in the north of Scotland in a place called Papa Westray, although we were based in Scapa Flow at the time with the battleships, the heavy battleships. I was on the Nelson and the King George V, so that was the 16-inch guns, 14.5 guns, to do the bombarding of the coast for the troops before they landed, getting their tanks and that ashore. But after doing my training up there, we were seconded back down to a place with the troops in a place called Lewes, L-E-W-E-S, in the south of England. We're in there for about, confined to barracks for about a week, and then from there we've marched from there down to a place called Newhaven in the south coast of England. From there we sailed over on the 5th, but unfortunately because of the weather it was cancelled. We had to come back again and put ashore again. But within a matter of hours we were back on board again and sailed over. On the way over, of course, you can remember the weather was very, very stormy and the troops were more or less all seasick. Unfortunately, they were unsick. But being part of a naval bombardment unit, it consisted of one naval officer, one army officer, a lance bombardier, and 2 naval telegraphists. And we were seconded to, in my case, it was to the light infantry. And we were put ashore on Sword Beach on about the first waves going in at about 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Unfortunately, just got down the ramps onto the beach, and of course, unfortunately, I was shot in the arm. The bullet went right through my left arm here, and which smashed up my humerus bone, and I lost the power of the radial and medium nerves in my left arm. But as I say, that after being shot in that, I was taken ashore again and put onto one of the naval bombardment vessels and laid offshore for 24 hours until she ran out of ammunition. Then I was taken back to Portsmouth and put into St Mary's Hospital, Portsmouth. We were only there for about 2 or 3 days when the buzz bombs started coming over Portsmouth, and they took us out on stretchers and took us back onto railway glorified goods wagons and brackets and put us on stretchers there, took us out the area, and I was taken up to a place called Thorncliffe Hospital in Sheffield. Unfortunately, you can see that the part of my arm is still deformed, but other than that, as I say, that I was very fortunate to get out of it. No doubt there's other lads that are with me today. They went up through the whole thing, right up through Germany. They'll be able to tell you more. But as I say, as far as I'm concerned, I'm very, very fortunate that I got out of it the way I did. Otherwise, I say that you can imagine hell just being let loose on the beach and people round about you falling dead and people floating in the water dead. It was, you just don't want to recall it. And unfortunately, as I say, I don't really talk much about it, but since you wanted the details of that, as I say, that it brings back memories, unfortunately. But I hope that what I've said has been to your satisfaction.
Of course, of course. Thank you very much.
I think they were the 15-inch German guns.
This one here, these are all the sort of, as I say, that straightforward. Along this way, this is the 1939-49 Star. That's the French and Germany one, the next one. And then after that's the Defence Medal. And then you go on to the Normandy Beach one. That's it there, the Normandy one. And that is the one what you get when you're wounded. You discharge. That plus this small one up there, a small one here too.
That's why I thought.
Okay, we take that back.
That's why I thought you counted to 10.
Komen ze zo met die tweede boot hier naartoe? Oh, oké.
Hier komt hier dan een butterluider bij?
Nee, maar dat doen we wel. Je vader achter elkaar aan.
What's your name?
Dan kan je beter die papieren hier geven.
Ja, dat heb ik hier.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Hier heb je
5,
ook een
6.
mooie plek.
Ladies and gentlemen, say it
Around that thingy. Around there.
Yeah. You are coming?
I'm coming.
Keep coming. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. The next.
Skipper, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On Tuesday's evening, we are drinking a beer.
Yeah, we will do.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please.
Oké, Walter? Maar zo in één keer was het gebeurd. Ja.
Heb ik...
Els, ik weet niet vergunningen bij je.
Ja?
Aangenaam. Ja, of course.
You can hold my shoulder now.
On your back.
All right.
Thank you.
Very sorry.
And then up through Holland, yes. We went to Willems. I know what it means, but it sounds bloody good, like, that's all.
It just looks like an outcast. Nee?
Walter. Look at me hat on.
Looks pretty. She's done another one. Where the hell you going with that? What is it? What was the journal?
Oh, my diary.
If you do, I'm going to grab your wife here. Maybe you've got to do a fast change in case a husband comes in like so. Put that down, yeah?
Ik zei, ik ga wel op een kussen zitten. Dat is iets meer comfortabel voor hem.
Alright.
We've got a job cleaning windows.
On the, clean the windows on the inside where the girls sit. Ian, the ideal wife. If you fancy, she wants you to go to bed with her, and if you fancy it, thinks you got enough license there. Now, what more can you wish for, Tom? Do you know what a nymphomaniac is?
I know, I'm one.
Do you know what a nymphomaniac is?
Yes.
No, you don't.
What is one?
It's a girl that can tip you over and get underneath you before you fall.
Ik denk, ja, die man heeft vliegreis achter de mond. De Pope en Bill Clinton died on the
You got the golden road coming on there. But you got a lift of blokes down to Mercedes. He was showing around Germany.
I usually wear the bloke that can hold the bridge down.
Going, getting, greeting everyone, see? Were you wearing uniform? Also no, first time when it
It was blowing up in Zutphen. Yeah. So we had to cross.
In the crossing of the Issel River in Gorsel by the Canadian Army on the 12th of April 1945, the liberation of the western part of Holland began.
I'm Joseph Mark, and I'm in the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. We landed off the Normandy beach on the 19th of June, and because of the heavy storms we were unable to land, so we stayed offshore for the next 48 hours until the 21st, and during that time there was heavy shelling there was the German planes coming over and dropping mines, sea mines, and there were terrible racket with all these naval ships firing their 15-inch guns way out at sea. And of course there was other shells coming from the Germans as well, because we were within sort of the range of them. And then I remember I was on a landing craft, and my vehicle was a Jeep, Willis Jeep. And when we came in to land, they dropped the front part of it, and of course we could see the sea and thought, how deep is that? Anyway, when we went off, we sort of hit the water, and then we just had to hard down on the throttle to get onto the beach. And lucky we all made it. By that time there wasn't a great deal of activity on the beach. There was lots of military policemen who were directing the traffic and where to go. And then the first job when we landed on the beach was to de-waterproof the vehicles, because we had waterproofed them so they could go in the water, and the exhausts of the vehicles were all extended above the top of the vehicle. Yes. We then moved inland, and we arrived at a village called Gorssel, where we were to stay for, I think it was about 10 days. There was very little activity. There was lots of artillery, both our 25-pounders firing at the Germans, and the Germans firing back with their 88 mils. And then the first big battle took place in late June, which was Hill 112. And we went into action there, and after 4 days, the 4th Wiltshire Battalion reached the top of the hill, and they were badly mauled, many dead, and they were driven back down again. Then, of course, nobody could move during the day, and we had troops on 3 sides of the hill, all trying to get up there, and it wasn't possible. The Tiger tanks at the top were too good for us, and in the end we had to bomb them, and eventually they had to disband another division to reinforce all the units of our division because of the casualties. When we reached the top of the hill, there was a cornfield on the top, vividly in my mind, this cornfield, and it was strewn with dead Germans when we arrived there. After a while we managed to drive the Germans off the top of the hill down the other side, and then they counterattacked again with tanks. We hadn't got tanks up at the top of the hill by that time, and of course we were driven back again. I wasn't at the top of the hill because I was with the artillery, so I was further down, but of course we witnessed all the casualties coming back, the chaps who had been wounded being medevaced, and we lost I think it was 2 colonels. I lost my colonel there, Owen Dent, he was killed, and the Colonel James of the 4th Battalion, the Wiltshire Regiment, he was also killed, and they were the commanding officers. And then afterwards there was 7,000 casualties, British casualties on top of that hill, and we also lost 400 tanks in the battle. And if you go there today, there's a large memorial on top of the hill from my division, 43rd Wessex Division, and also a tank from the 79th Armoured Division, who were our support tanks. Yes, the next important battle was Mount Pincon, and after that we had driven the Germans back, and they were all trapped in what we call the Fallaise Gap. It was a gap where the Americans were on the southern flank, the British were in the centre, and on the north flank was the Polish army and the Canadians. and we squeezed the Germans together in this pocket, and it just had one road out of this Fallaise, the area of Fallaise. And of course, when we trapped them all there, that was all the troops from Normandy, the German troops. And we really annihilated them there. The Typhoon rocket planes, they came down and they just fired these rockets on these roads, and there were, all these Germans were sitting targets. And when I arrived with my unit, there was, the roads were absolutely, sorry, we're dead. There was thousands of them. Equipment, vehicles. Sorry, I can't. Yeah, it was a terrible loss of life.
Were you emotional then?
No,
as well?
No.
Are you?
No.
Are you?
No, I was not emotional then. No. It was, you know, it was an everyday occurrence then. So you know, you sort of, it just went in and out. But when you think about it, yes. The next battle was crossing the Seine at Vernon. We had to establish a bridgehead, capture the bridge first, but we hadn't. The Germans had blown it at Vernon, so we had to get across with boats. Once we had established a bridgehead on the other side, the sappers came along and put a Bailey bridge across, so then we could get tanks and vehicles across. Once we had established a bridgehead, then all the rest of the Second Army then drove through, and they raced then right up to Brussels, Belgium, and we stayed there for 3 weeks on rest and recuperation. And we had our first bath. We all smelt the same anyway, because we hadn't had a bath. And then they brought this mobile bath unit, and you sort of they took the water from the River Seine, and you went in one end of this bath unit, you stripped off, went in, had your shower, out the other end, and you got a clean shirt, clean underwear, clean socks, and you were brand new, ready to meet all the girls in Vernon. Yeah. So we had a nice 3 weeks there, where we had the Ensign come and entertain us and that sort of thing. By that time, all these units, the tanks and infantry, had all gone through and carried on up to Belgium. After we arrived from France, off the Dutch-Belgian border, south of Eindhoven, we were given orders to move to Arnhem, to relieve the paratroops there. So we started off on the 17th, and there was just one road up to Arnhem. The first stop was at Somme. Germans had blown the bridge over the canal there, and the sappers then had to come up and put a bridge. We got across there, but it took us 4 days to get to Nijmegen. But on the way we also had a Netherlands brigade with us, and we left them at Graaf to look after the bridge there. And then when we got to Nijmegen, of course, there was a great deal of activity, because we hadn't, then that was on the 21st of September, so it took us 4 days to travel 60 miles. And in between this, the road was being cut by the Germans, because they're on both sides. And then in Nijmegen, a great deal of activity with German planes coming over, and I was with the ACAC, and I remember vividly where we shot down one of the German planes, and the pilot bailed out. His parachute didn't open, and he came down and hit the ground. And when we went across to recover him, he had made his own grave, a dent in the ground, and his body was just like a sack of water. It must have broke every bone in his body, and it was just like a sack of water. On the 17th of September, we were harboured near Lille, on the Belgium-Dutch border, and it was Sunday, the 17th of September. It was a lovely sunny day, and suddenly we saw in the sky hundreds and hundreds of aeroplanes. We naturally thought at first, oh, it was just another raid going to Germany. And then after all these other planes came over, there was planes with gliders being towed. That indicated there was something happening, because with gliders there would be airborne forces. So we knew that there was something going on further ahead. And it wasn't until 2 hours after the planes were going over, and they're still going over, when there was a no group called by the officers, and we were told what the object was. They were going to land at Arnhem, and we were going to head up there to relieve them. So after arriving in Nijmegen, and we'd captured the bridge, we went across. One brigade went towards Elst, the other brigade went left west to head for Driel. And eventually we arrived at Driel. Lots of confusion, because the Germans, there was no main roads on the left of the main road from Nijmegen to Arnhem, so there was just one road, and you could be travelling along the road and you would suddenly see a convoy coming the other way at night time, and you wouldn't realise until afterwards that it was a German one. It was such a mix-up there. We arrived at Driel, and of course the orders then came through that it was hopeless. We were not going to get across the other side to help the airborne, so it was decided by the generals that they would have to be evacuated. Now, because the Germans on the other side, on the Oosterbeek side, were on the high ground, and they commanded the view right across the river, so in consequence it was very, very difficult to move during the daytime. You had to sort of keep underground, and it was mostly movement at night. And it was decided that to get them out, we would use the Dorset Regiment, which was an infantry regiment, and they were to be taken across by boat. The first lot of boats, and I can't remember how many, and there was about 10 infantry in each boat, they got swept away down the river, because they didn't realise it was such a rapid flowing river that they just disappeared down the river. So that was the end of them. It was then decided that we would send more over, but further up the river, so that they could get across. They landed, and I think there was a whole battalion got across, what remained of the Dorset Regiment. They got across, but they were held down because they couldn't move during the day, so they had to sort of hide away in what cover there was. And eventually most of them were taken prisoner, including the commanding officer. So those that were left were then to hold that part of the river on that bank, so that we could bring out the airborne forces. And it was decided that they would have to come out at night, and they then, the sappers, I think it was the sappers, they used white mining tape.
Yes.
Whenever you cleared mines, you put a white tape down. That indicated it was being clear. So they put this white tape down from Oosterbeek, where the main airborne forces were, and it came right the way down, a route right down to the river, and they had to follow the white tape. And they were told that they were not to speak or make any noise, and that's why it's called the Silent March. They were told to follow the white tape. And then when they got down to the river, those who could swim, they swam across to Driel. Those who couldn't were brought across by boats. And overnight we brought back, I think it was 2,300 paratroopers, which was quite a lot. And we had 2 Bofor guns. They're the 40mm ACAC guns. One on the southern end, which was near the Driel ferry, the ferry wasn't running in those days. And then further along we had another Bofor gun, and they fired tracers to indicate the area where we were doing the evacuation.
You've gone too stupid.
Can you give me the program?
Peter. Yeah. And Eric. Yeah, it's not too hard.
You want to take my hand.
The legs are sore. Jeez, yeah. That's it, that's right.
Okay, watch your heart, watch your head. Okay. Yeah. Watch your head. Go on. Gaat het? Wel leuk.